he was a genius, and geniuses are not. I say that quite calmly and clearly. He was a genius. And geniuses are notoriously loony, because it's a very fine line between madness and genius. I mean, it's a hair. But he'd taken whatever pills he took, and he had this and that and the other, and he was in a dirty black T-shirt, and he insulted the press, he insulted us all, and he said the film was a message for his suicide. Well, I knew more than they did that he was talking the truth. But the point was, I felt everything I'd ever had and talked to you about draining out of me. Sitting there at the press thing with the lights all on, all these idiots waiting with questions boys from every newspaper in the world there at those press conferences at Cannes. It's a big deal. With Andra sitting icily beside me, despairingly, because her performance had been wrecked and mine had been fucked up anyway. And I just thought, no, go back to the farm, because I was only up the mountain 45 minutes away, and never come back.
How childish. Good people. We are making a film here. In a minute, I will be coming out. But you must keep the policeman back, so that I can get away. I'm a film actor. I'm coming out. Don't look at the camera. I'm coming out.
Hollywood came to England, and they came after us. They came shopping after the war. And quite rightly, they wanted an intake of fresh blood. So they bought Deborah, they bought Stuart Granger, they bought Jimmy Mason, they bought Gene Simmons, and they came to Uncle Dirk, and I was bought too. But I wasn't going to play an Englishman. I was given a contract which so frightened me when I looked at it. I had a bungalow with a number in Pacific Palisades. I had a foreign, because that was important to the trick, a foreign car, which was a Volkswagen, little one, Beetle. And I was being sent across the border into Tijuana and beyond, in Mexico, for 2 years to learn intensive Spanish, because I was being re-imported as their Spanish star, because apparently I look Spanish. And they had all the English, the British, and everything, but I was unknown. This was before I signed with Rank. And I thought, well, I don't think I can go through with this. I knew what I was going to be paid. I knew how long it was going to be. I thought, well, do I really want to go there and become Ricardo? I know what his name was, Ricardo something. He even had a name for me. Living in Pacific Palisades. And this is the bit. I was offered a list, or shown a list, not offered it. And the lady, whose name I won't mention, said, who was doing the deal, the contract at the Dorchester Hotel, said, you will have, at the end of the first year of contract, to choose one of the following. They're all under contract to us, and they're all nice, clean girls. They're all safe, but you have to marry one. Unless, of course, you have married before, but then you will need our permission, because we want you to marry, somebody that is part of the studio. I thought, I'm 26. I've just finished a war with 7 medals. What am I doing with these people? So I tore it up and walked home in the snow with no shoes. I mean, I had shoes, but they had holes in them. That's why I didn't go to Hollywood. It wasn't for me, anyway. I didn't want the loot. And I didn't want to marry a nice, clean girl on 20th Century Fox list. And the other thing was I could divorce her within a year, and they'd take care of the press. So everything is worked out to a last degree for you, and you can say, well, it couldn't be true, it can't happen, but it is true, and it did. It did happen. I mean, somebody as magical as Marilyn Monroe. I mean, Marilyn was totally and utterly murdered by them, by their system, and to a great degree, Judy, whom I knew very, very closely and well for about 10 years. I did her last movie with her. But Judy they killed Judy. They've killed anybody of any sensitivity. I mean, you have to get out. It's clear that I did have a form of sex appeal, certainly for what we call the teenagers, you know, before the Beatles came in and before they were pop stars. I mean, I was number one on the top for, well, I was never off the list until 61. I began to slide. I was always in the first 10 anyway at the box office, but I was first and second always for a number of years. I think it was the kind of films I did, you know, Little Boy Looking for God, Staunch Upper Lip, Brave Captains. I mean, I took care to look pretty. Now, the fact that I was as scrawny as a plucked hen, and a skinny hen at that, it didn't seem to matter. I mean, the rank organization did supply me with dumbbells and great sets of wheels that I was supposed to do that with. All I did was put on 2 sweaters and then put my shirt on and then put my jacket on, so everything was tailored that way. But it didn't matter. People didn't mind me being scrawny. I think it wasn't important. But the boys that were what they called beefcake in those days, I mean, you know, where are they now? I'm not saying that with any malice. It was a non-lasting phase. I know one actor who had to have his jeans sewed up at the side, and the wardrobe mistress complained in the end and said, I'm not going through with this any longer. It's ridiculous showing off like that. But it didn't do him any good. Not for long. He wasn't a very good actor. But I'd been a better actor and wasn't a very good film star. Should we put it that way? I leapt into black leather. In an instant, we sold 10,000 pairs of trousers in the King's Road after the release of Anacleto. Yeah, sure. I'm not an idiot. I was totally aware that the English hero in movies was usually dressed in tweeds and a Pringle V-neck sweater, and always baggy trousers. Now, that wasn't my scene, and it wasn't for the audiences, and I switched that around. I remember working with Losi, the first film we ever did together, which was Sleeping Tiger, and he said, you know, this is sexually charged, and all that. I hadn't heard these words from the rank organization in my life before. I'd only been doing it for 4 or 5 years. Sexually charged, what does that mean? I said, well, what do I wear? And he said, in this scene. And Joe said, well, have we got continuity on this? I said, no, there's no continuity. And he said, well, get into your boots and your breeches again, because there was a riding scene. And he had Alexis do the same, so there was a supercharge. I was being photographed with sexual content. Well, I didn't miss out on that. I learnt from that. And people, particularly women in audiences, don't quite know what nerve has been hit. But they know that they find you attractive, and they don't quite know why. Because women are just as sexually aware as fellas are, let me tell you. And Uncle Dirk got a great deal of mail, and always has had, from people who went a little further than they perhaps should have done. The cinema is a sexual thing. You go to the movies for sex. You may not go there to watch a porno movie, so I don't mean that kind of thing. But it is a sexual excitement. Nobody wants to go see tea cozies at work. I think the rank organization, quite rightly, those rather jealous ones said, oh, well, you're really a teddy bear. You know, people would rather take you to bed than have you in bed. I was known as the sort of hot water bottle figure. Well, that did bother me, because I knew that it really wasn't so, that the reaction I was getting to my work and to being who I was, that people were turned on by me when I was young, I'm talking about, not now. And there was an alchemy at work, and so I used it. I had no reason to suppose that I could win, but I mean, it was all cheating. I had to have my hair permed, a light perm, but I had to have it done because I've got hair like a doll. You know, I've discovered something now that we've got here called mousse, and that's great. You know, I can manage. But otherwise, I'm as bald as a coot, really, and it's all chicanery. The whole thing is fake. But then that's what sex is. It's an illusion. That's what the cinema is. It's illusion. But I was jolly sure that I was going to make every wing commander I played as physically possible and attractive as I could. As mischievous, as flirty, as whatever you like. I was totally aware of it. And when I realized that I was working on screen, which I only did like 3 years afterwards, I wasn't a very good actor, all those things, but something was happening, then I nursed it. I had a special little light for my eyes. It was called a bar, Dirk's Bar. Have you got Bogarde's Bar or Dirk's Bar? Nobody else had it. I had it. Because the only thing I had that was a good feature were my eyes. I didn't like the stardom. I never have, if that's what it was called. I hated it. It stopped me doing the theatre. I lost my nerve in the theatre because of the perfectly sweet fans who used to come screaming to the theatre to see me in a play by Beckett or Jean Anouilh or something like that, and they didn't know what the hell they were looking at. And they broke up the place and threw meat pies at us, you know, that kind of thing. We love you, Dirk, and all, you know, great, but it was a ruin. It ruined the plays, it ruined the company, and it ruined what I was trying to do anyway, so I thought, pack it up. But I mean, I hated that, not being in control myself. I think that's probably what it is, in control is what I want to be. You see, people said how brave I was to be in the film with Judy Garland. I wasn't brave. I wasn't self-sacrificing. I wrote all her material. And it was one of the greatest privileges of my acting life, was to work with that actress. And she was a monster. She was monstrous, but she was magic. Well, you don't get that. And I worked with some of the greatest of those ladies. Ava Gardner was a sweet, adorable creature. Well, you don't get those chances. So you've got to work at your charm, you've got to work at the sex appeal. But there came a time when that had to finish, and you had to put on Barrett's shoes and Barrett's hat and creep around the house and be the servant. Okay, fine. So you give up all the rest, but I'd had it. I'm very glad. Nice while it lasted.
Oh, come on, come on. Have a little sip, see what it tastes like.
I told you, I'm not drinking.
Go now. Look. Just have a little sip, that's all. Just a sip. There you are.
You see? I can still think of things that will please you, can't I? You won't get many better than me, you know. What you want? Old hag running around the house, getting you up in the morning at crack of dawn, telling you what to do. My only ambition's to serve you, you know that, don't you?
I'm sorry, I've been a bit edgy lately.
Oh, well, I mean, I admit I make mistakes, but after all, I'm only human, aren't I? You wouldn't like me if I wasn't human, would you?
The place could be cleaner, that's all.
Well, I know it could be a bit cleaner. That's what I've been going on about for days.
Listen. Listen. Perhaps we could both make an extra effort.
You're right there, Tony. You're dead right. That's what we ought to do.